Hello, and thank you so much for dropping by this video. And very more specifically, more accurately, I'd like to say, hello, you that were made in the image and likeness of God. At least that's how the most popular book on the planet, the Bible, that's what the Bible says about you and me and everyone. That we're literally made in the image and likeness of infinite love, infinite power, infinite goodness. Who can even fathom God, infinite goodness, that which has no cause, that which caused everything, caused us, which created everything? But what even a more profound mystery that we are somehow like it, him, her, it, however you think of or define the supreme. So welcome you. One of my favorite Christian writers says that human beings are a divine creation, a divine marvel. So let's just take a moment and bask in this mystery of the mystery of God. We like to, even read the Bible, but read books and have deep thoughts and have deep conversations. But let's let go of a moment for the thoughts and the abstract ideas, and let's just sit in the idea of limitlessness. That which has no cause. Everything around us has a cause. It was made by something. But right here, right now, we're talking about that reality, that force, that being, that love that not only created everything, but itself is uncreated. Who can fathom that? Let's once again drop into the mystery. And that somehow we are like it. Now, sadly, spirituality and religion for quite some time has been about reading books and acquiring information and having the right information and having the right beliefs. But I argue that that's just a very small part of it. And in fact, the information is only useful in that it produces a result. That information either connects us to God or makes us better people. And if it doesn't do that, it's really just more a hobby. For years, I just devoured books, all this information, all this knowledge, but it didn't really connect. It didn't help me connect to God, maybe a little bit, and it didn't make me a better person, maybe a little bit. That's true. An idea that does one of those two things, now that's an idea to focus on. That's worthy of our attention. So let's start with that first, getting connected to God. How to do that? Well, I'd have to say the simplest and easiest and most profound way that I've found goes like this. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor. Hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back in a relaxed position, not leaning against your chair if possible. And close your eyes. And now really separate yourself from every burden, every worry, every resentment. In essence, giving away the past, giving away the future. Because if you look around, The past is past and the future doesn't exist yet. So let's give those things away so we can come into the present. Now let's also give away any burdens, whether they be illnesses, physical, mental, emotional, life situations, such as anything that's a challenge. Let's entrust these things into the hands of God, into your understanding of a higher power. Really handing these things over. Now asking to receive the presence, the peace, and the power of the divine, and observe your body, noticing what you feel. Having the intention to take this in, to take in literally the power of God, the divine force that can not only bring us comfort, but can actually bring healing. So we're going to spend a little time doing that right now. Just noticing what you feel. Throughout history, people have sought this feeling of connection with the divine. This phrase keeps coming to me, practicing the presence of God. I'm not sure if I think maybe it's a sort of a somewhat famous book on mysticism. Mysticism is an interesting word, but all it really means is to feel connection, communion, even union with the divine. And I invite people, I'm going to do some reading, some sharing, we'll see what happens. I invite people to just sit with their eyes closed and continue to practice the presence of God. Maybe more accurately, to take in the energy, power of the divine. So what I've noticed in my own life is if I don't make connecting to God a priority, There's plenty of other things that will be made priority. It's the 21st century. There's a lot going on. There's many things that are more than happy to have our time, energy, and attention. Of course, we're gathered here today thanks to the internet, and of course, the internet is very happy to take all the time we'll give it. And not so much and what are our priorities in life? Now, the divine, while the evidence of God is all around us, like stuff, like all this stuff, I used to, and I imagine most people go through the world not really thinking about the divine, not really feeling connected to the divine, even though our very existence screams, something made you. And every object we look at screams, something made me. I exist. So we each need to find our own way to, well, need isn't necessarily the word, for those who want to draw closer to God. Those people, I'm one of those people, and if you're here on this channel, I'm assuming you're one of those people, then you need to find your way of connecting and communing. And of course, this simple practice I taught of observing your body, taking this energy in. I didn't come up with it. I just shared it. It's a great way to navigate throughout the day. It's a little easier to stay connected to the divine when we're surrounded by nature, but sadly, tragically, human beings have done everything in their power to blot out nature, to blot out the pure creation of God. And so we find ourselves surrounded by all these artificial things. But, all we need to do is look at a tree, which I'm doing right now, and that tree just screams life. And not so far behind that, and maybe the same thing as that, the tree screams God, the divine, the sacred, the whole. It screams holiness. Something is holy. And looking at that tree, we're almost by grace connected. It's a little harder as I look at my wall. But with a slight shift, and even looking at my wall can be a sacred act. Oh my, it exists. To make progress on this path, I've had to give up all my old ideas about God. I had a lot of them. Some of them were quite scary. One of the most profound ideas I ever heard was that God is not some far away, but that God is closer than close, all around us, actually within us. That's quite a mystery, which I can't even begin to explain. But the closer I draw to the divine, the more I feel the divine everywhere. And I can almost see or feel the divine in my wall. So let's take a little time and reflect on all this. continuing to take in this sacred energy. Different cultures, different religions have different names, but they all agree there is a power that made all of this, and that power is accessible by us as human beings. And when I first was taught this practice, I didn't really feel anything. But now when I do it, it's such a deep peace. It's like a settling. It's like I feel whole and complete. What I've come to realize is that's natural. Said another way, we're designed to be connected to the divine, to be in communion, to be connected. And when we are, we feel well. And when we don't feel so well. As the expression goes, a fish out of water. So, but that's almost talking about sort of a psychological or emotional wellness. But in terms of just every aspect of our life, the question is, what do we rely on? It's a question I ask myself often, and I personally believe it's one of the most important questions. What do we rely on? What do we depend on? It's so important. What do we lean on? Now, what I'm going to share comes from my experience in the 12-step program, which is it's a program for people with addictions, which I used to struggle with, very bad addictions, and a spiritual path of surrender to and relying on a higher power. So really the essence of it is that of the 12 steps is this that unless we're really leaning on, relying on a higher power, we're probably trying to run the show. We're probably trying to be in charge of life. And that's not so natural. That, as I said, we start off with, there's this infinite force and power that's unspeakably wiser than us. There's a huge part of life is learning how to really tune in and listen and be guided by this force, by God. I'll give a great example. It's a little example, but it's a very good example. I was on a conference call today, and at a certain point, it just didn't feel right. I was enjoying the call, but I was like, this doesn't feel right to be on the call anymore. So I hung up, and I noticed that I had a message, a text from a friend who's very hard to get a hold of. And so I called him and we got to have this amazing talk for 15 minutes. I caught him right before his next appointment. He's one of those people who's like, he's always on the go. And so what I did and I start my day asking God to guide everything, everything. Does that mean I'm guided every moment? No, but it is my intention and my desire to be guided. And this is a beautiful example. I was on the conference call, and in the past I used to live my life based on rules, like, well, I need to be on the whole time, or oh, it'll be good for like it was a call about spiritual things. It was like, oh, it'd be good for me to hear more, you know. But that's not how life operates. Life operates not so much by rules. We human beings like to make rules and structures, but really life is an ebb and flow of going here and doing this and then going there and then doing this and then resting and learning how to follow that flow, to tune into it, to tap into it. I would say that's the art of life, tuning in and tapping into this higher power, being guided by it. So let's spend a little time in silence, continuing to take this energy in. So I'm going to read a little bit from the Bible, and I always hesitate to do that because I'm not a I'm not a formal preacher, and many people have aversion to the Bible, and I'm still one of them. But this really just captures the essence of what I'm trying to say. It says Yahuwah, which is a Hebrew word which means has many meanings, but that which means that which caused everything to exist. It's often mistranslated as the Lord, but that's really not. So Yahuwah is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahuwah is the refuge and fortress of my life. Whom shall I dread? And that's from Psalm 27. So as we go about life, what's our compass? What's our foundation? What's the thing that we look to solve all of our problems? I'm a big fan of such things as talking to people and hikes and exercise and healthy diet and getting a life coach and seeing counseling. There's all these amazing resources for us for life, taking supplements. But none of them are a foundation. None of them are something we can rely on. A job, a relationship, again, they can be dependable to a certain extent. But there's only one thing that's utterly, even this book. This is a book. And this book points us, as any good spiritual book does, all it does is it points to the one thing that is reliable. The verse we're reading today calls it Yahuwah, that which causes to be. It's a fancy way of saying the creator of everything. So there's so many Christian denominations. As of 2010, there are over 30,000. And it's at the time of this video, it's 2020. I'm guessing there's a couple thousand new ones. But I'm convinced that what I've just shared is really the essence of everything that Christ taught. And that essence being that the divine God, our Maker, is our refuge, is our light, is our salvation, is our fortress. Said in very straightforward language, is the solution to all our problems, needs to be the foundation, the focus of our life. Now, the way I was raised, that would mean, okay, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to study the Bible and maybe I'll become a minister and I'm going to hang out with other Christians. But that's not what I said. And actually, that's not really what this says. Once again, this higher power, this higher reality, making it not in these roundabout ways. Those roundabout ways can be supportive. What I'm talking about is directly connecting to the divine. And I'm a fan of the Bible. I read it. I'm a fan of spiritual groups. I'm a fan of talking with people. I'm not saying don't do those things, but let's also not forget about going to the source and ultimately relying on the source. It's the only reliable thing I'm aware of. If anyone knows of something that's completely reliable other than God, please let me know, because I've been looking for it. The only thing I've found that I can just base my whole life around is that which made me and sustains me. Thank you so much, everyone, to join in. Thanks for saying hello, Cloudy. with this one idea. I'll say two ideas: relying on God and connecting to the divine power. The teachings of Christ now make sense to me. I studied it for years and it just didn't make any sense. But I'm pretty convinced what I've just shared is really the utter foundation. And with that foundation, the rest of it makes sense. If you'd like more information, please check out my website, which will be linked below. I'd like to thank everyone who watched this live, everyone who took the time to watch this video. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day of communion with the divine. Take care. Much love.